Run it, baby. Ricky Cheese, baby!
Hey guys, it's your boy Ricky Cheese with the Florida Wrestling Room Facebook page and the FloridaWrestlingRoom.com. I am here with none other, my boy Alex Wisdom with Florida Wrestling Insight. He is the brains behind Florida Wrestling Insight. This guy will drop some serious wrestling knowledge on you. So I love every time we collaborate because I learn something new every time I talk with this guy. So to start off the night, let me first ask you and be a gentleman, how's your night going?
My night's good, you know. I got to talk about wrestling, so nothing much better.
I hear you, man. Did you have classes today? I know you're a college student. What's going on with that?
Yeah. I had classes. I had a 8 a.m. and then I had a 3 p.m. I don't advise to get 8 a.m.s, but it was unavoidable.
Some good advice.
Overall, good day. You know, did some stuff with rankings and updates.
Yes, thank you so much.
A whole lot of wrestling.
Yeah, for those people that didn't know, I was pretty much dead for the most part. I couldn't get out of bed since Sunday afternoon. Didn't get to watch any of the playoffs really because I was so sick with the flu. Today was my first day back to work. I actually missed a bunch of days, which is not good, but it is what it is. You know, you got to take care of your body. So when the flu comes calling, you gotta kill it with fluids and rest and sleep and everything else. But anyways, I reached out to Alex and asked him, please, I don't want to come out with the updated rankings this week for everybody. Can you help me? And he jumped right in and he did it all for me, man. So thank you so much for that.
Of course, anytime.
Absolutely. And by the way, guys, it is not an easy task, let me tell you. This guy went through every single tournament, every match that took place this past weekend to see who beat who was not ranked, that is now should be ranked. It's a lot of work, and he didn't even bat an eye. So again, I can't thank you enough. Anyway, with that being said, let's jump right into it, man. We had an awesome week of the state duels. We're going to start with 1A, go right through it to 3A. Let's talk about 1A, man. What do you think about that?
So 1A, at the beginning of the year, I said Matter Lakes is going to win the whole thing. I said it before. I said it in the preseason show. I said it before the state duels.
You did.
And Matter Lakes won the whole thing. I thought that it was going to be a little more dominant, but there were some upsets that definitely opened my eye to what the state IBT tournament can be like. Yeah. And we just talked, I think the biggest duel was the semifinals in the beginning, Merritt Island versus Matter Lakes. I think that opened a lot of eyes for me. Obviously, going in from the beginning, the two Messina brothers clutched up with pins, but then a match that I focused on was Landon Kuroga versus Ethan Tron. My senior year, I got to see Landon wrestle. I believe he was a freshman or he was in middle school, and he's tough. So seeing him wrestle some of the best kids in the state like Ethan, and seeing Ethan wrestle before and being in a practice room with him, it definitely surprised me that he got a fall over Ethan. It was a big 50-50 position. Maybe if you retreated, it could have been different, but a pin is a pin, and it could have changed the momentum of the whole match, and it probably did, because then it led up to Timmy Boda majoring Anthony Odell, which I know Odell, and he is a very gritty wrestler, so for him to get majored 14-4 is definitely something that I think could change up a lot of things. Obviously, I believe Timmy Boda went up a weight class too, which is even more surprising. He's given up weight. So I think that was something to definitely look at. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, you know my opinion on that. I think we kind of disagreed on this one with Boda. And the last time we did a recording, I think we were also talking, you know, I had Boda ranked number 1 over Lincoln Sledzinowski. And we discussed that, and I told you why I thought that, and you told me why you thought no, that Lincoln should be number 1. But now Boda is opening some people's eyes, man. He's getting a little bit more respect than I think he was getting with these big wins that he's pulling off. The kid's doing it, man. You know,
no, 100%.
And listen, Boda over Mason Odell, that was not a fluke.
Yeah, Anthony Odell.
I'm sorry, Anthony Odell. Yeah, that was not a fluke because, you know, it was 14-4. You don't just beat somebody 14-4 on accident. You know, you could catch somebody and pin them, and hey, yeah, great, you beat this kid you weren't supposed to beat, but that's not what happened. You know, Boda went out there and he took it to Odell and he won 14-4. So I still say Boda's my number 1 guy, man. What do you think? Does that change your mind at all with the Sledzinowski thing, or not really?
It definitely opened my eyes to how he's a wrestler. I watched the match on Flow. It was a good match. I think the Lincoln Sledzinowski match can be closer now than what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I thought it would be more dominant towards Lincoln's side, but it could definitely be closer now. especially with how the tournament's been shaping up and how Lincoln performed that state duel as well.
Sure.
He did great, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I still have Lincoln #1 by an edge.
Okay.
But we'll see.
We will definitely see.
And then Calais Nazario bumping up a weight class to wrestle Trey Driggett, who's also a very tough wrestler, very good wrestler, and tech falling him in the third period. Just shows how much he's gotten better. I know at Christmas Knockout, if you watched the tournament, it seemed like he was fighting an injury, but now he's back wrestling 100%, and when he's 100%, he's arguably one of the top guys in the state.
Yeah.
He has a stacked weight class. Andres DiGrigoli, Calais Nazario, Kyle Gallo, Frankie Florio, all like top 4 state contenders, state title contenders.
Scary
So
names.
we'll see how that bracket shapes out.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about St. John Newman, man, making the state finals in their first year? And listen, guys, I get it. I know what you're going to say. Yeah, their first year, but he got a lot of kids from Palmetto Ridge to come over with him. Yeah, I get it. It's still a first-year program, man. And it's
100%.
And the whole Palmetto Ridge team did not come over. You got, I don't know, 5, 6 maybe. But still, hell of a coach. And listen, he's no stranger to these big duels because if you recall, Coach Blaine Eisen back in 2022 did a couple of moves in his lineup and knocked off South Dade to become the dual state champs. Palmetto Ridge was the dual state champs in 2022. So, this is not a spot that he's not used to. He's used to these big matches. So he didn't get it done this time. But I still say he's a hell of a coach and kudos.
I agree.
St. John Newman.
I agree. I mean, I think he did the same thing coming into this match. Score was tied 32-32. Their 138-pounder got a walk-off pin to win the match, win the duel, and go to the state duel finals. So that's not a fluke. You can bring transfers in, like you said, but coaching is as important as having wrestlers around you. So not only is he a respected coach, he has that accolades and he has a resume to back it up.
Yeah.
Then you bring in some of the best athletes in the country and in the state, and now you have a good wrestling room, and that's what happens. So I'm definitely excited to see where they finish in the 1A State Dual IBT race, or 1A State IBT race. But that excites me for sure. It makes me more interested. But it was just a great feeling, having some of my personal friends from Madder Lakes reach out to me saying, hey, thanks for not counting us out. Thanks for picking us. Yeah, I know Coach Newfield and Coach Ramsey reached out too. So it was really good to have that feeling.
Yeah.
But I think something that we need to go over is now 2A State Duels, which from beginning to end, in my opinion, was probably the most exciting. And I think something we should start with is Lake Gibson versus Tampa Jesuit.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of change-ups that could have shifted the whole duel, and that's what happened. Jaden Oliver, #1 guy, lost to, I believe, Xavier Alba, right?
Yep.
Who was the #2 guy.
Yep.
I believe Jaden's
#1, but yeah.
Exactly. I believe Jaden's beaten before. Same thing. Eric Hodge, #1 guy, lost to #2 guy, KJ Vasquez. Eric beat him 2 times before that. Definitely the Coach Basile, right? Coach Basil.
Sal Basil, yeah.
Coach Basil definitely trained those guys. Again, Hall of Fame coach. Did his thing. Driving McCall coming up with a clutch pin that shifted the duel at 65 against Louis Ballone, who's also not a scrub at all.
No,
multiple-time state
I
placer.
did not see that one coming. I thought that he would win, but I would never.
But not by a pin, and how it happened too.
Right.
Fun fact, I wrestled Ballone my sophomore year in the regional blood round to go to states, and he beat me. And he placed 6th at states that year. Wow. So it's just cool seeing him wrestle, still seeing him trying to go after a state title this year. I have nothing but support for him, and I have a lot of respect for him too as a wrestler, being able to wrestle him. But that definitely could have shifted things in the whole tournament for sure, and in that duel.
Absolutely.
Especially with their heavyweight from Lake Gibson. I believe he was winning and got pinned. So like I said, these pins matter in these duels, and especially at the state duel tournament.
I think I mentioned it to you. If it wasn't you, it was somebody else recently. I said these big-time dual meets are going to come down to bonus points.
Oh, 100%.
Always do. Always do.
And even then, like, top guys only being able to get minors. Maybe the other guy, he knows, okay, this guy's better than me. I can't beat him. Let me stall. Let me try to make sure he gets as least points as possible. Right. Let me look like I'm wrestling, but really I'm just trying to be defensive as much as possible. Sure. And that's what happened. We look at 106, RJ Phelan versus Zach Lito. RJ, he was probably projected to not have a 2-1 match against Lito, and that was a score, 2-1 match. Yep. That's only 3 points in the duel. Stuff can change up, stuff happens like that, and a lot of coaches will tell their kids, take your time, don't rush anything, play it smart, and that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree with you there. We mentioned Sal Basil, Hall of Fame coach, great coach for Tampa Jesuit. He was a great coach at Springstead when he was there. but we didn't mention Coach Dave Mason, who is his right-hand man, does so much for that Tampa Jesuit program, and I know that because Sal Basil says so, among a million other people that wrestle for Coach Mason and Coach Basil. So I want to give him his due credit as well. They're an
100%.
amazing team, kind of like Vic and Duck over at South Dade. They're just great together, man. It's like Batman and Robin, man. You can't break them up, and that's how these guys are, man.
I mentioned a Jesuit versus Somerset match with Hodge and KJ, not Gibson, but still, not to mention that, I mean, Jesuit had to prepare themselves to wrestle two-time defending 1A state champs Somerset next, who moves to 2A, and they won as well. So it came down to one match, I believe. Mateo Gonzalez, 138, seventh grade state placer. He got third as a seventh grader.
Yep.
That's almost unheard of.
Yep.
And he just it looked like he got oversized, but still, both great wrestlers. Came down to the wire. But it was a great match either way.
It did, wasn't it? It came down to that match, right? Winner of that match?
I believe so.
Yeah,
it was.
I'm almost positive.
It was 34-28. So if Mateo won, it would have been criteria. I don't know who would have won off of criteria, but
it would have won
I know
most match wins.
Yeah. So I know whoever Mateo wrestled, I believe it was Jaden Bowles.
Yeah.
Won that match. So
I feel bad for Mateo because he's a young kid, man, and to have that much pressure being the last match and knowing that you have to win, that's got to be a lot to carry on your shoulders. And I'm sure,
especially for an 8th grader.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, is he still just in 8th grade?
Yeah, he got
that's right.
He got third as a 7th grader.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, his arch nemesis last season when he was a 7th grader was Gian Ortiz from Jensen Beach. They wrestled like 3 or 4 times. And they're good friends. Actually.
Yeah, if he beat I forgot who he wrestled in the semifinals from Cocoa Beach, but that kid ended up beating Jan Ortiz in the state finals.
No, it wasn't Cocoa. It was.
Oh, it wasn't Cocoa Beach?
No, it was the kid from. He was at Bay, and then he transferred. He beat the state finals. You're right. Mateo lost him in the semis. I think had he beaten that kid in the semis, I don't know, man. It may have been a different outcome for Mateo this time. It's
I don't know. I'm good.
Somebody who's good like 4 times in a row.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Mateo. We actually stay in contact. And he's a great kid. Like I said, he's a great wrestler too. And I know him personally. He's funny. He's a good kid overall.
Yeah.
So, but something I really wanted to point out. Well, you say first, then we'll move on to 3A. So, like I said, 2A had some great matches. In the finals, I know Jesuit faced Charlotte.
Yeah.
Which I believe on the show, I didn't pick Charlotte to go to the finals, did I?
Either.
I didn't either. Who do we have to go?
The finals? Did that surprise you? It kind of surprised me a little bit. Who'd they beat to get there?
It was, on the top side, it was Middleburg Clay. I believe Clay won. Maybe I did pick Charlotte. And then Braden River, Charlotte. And then Charlotte, and then whoever we picked. I picked Gibson to make the finals, but that didn't happen. So maybe I did pick Charlotte.
Did Charlotte put it on Braden River pretty good, or was it a fairly close duel?
I believe they did.
They beat him good?
I think the final score was 48-26.
All right.
So
pretty good.
Not horrible.
Yeah, not horrible. It's respectable still, but
yeah, of course. But I think a match that stood out for sure was Jake Austin against Malachi Ortiz.
Yeah, bro.
And Jake beat him 11-5, which in my head I had Malachi above Jake. That weight class is stacked.
I did as well.
I had Malachi above Jake. I know he beat him at knockout, which is why.
Malachi beat Jake at knockout?
Yes.
So Jake got payback.
And Jake got payback.
Yeah.
I know the number one kid. Yeah, both state champs.
Yeah.
That's going to be heartbreaking because they're my number 2 and 3. My number 1 is Lucas Barrios. He's a conversation for a whole other podcast. I could talk about him differently for a whole lot of reasons. I also know him personally. I know his family.
Yep.
He's a great kid. His coach, Coach Cater, has been coaching me and my older brother since we were kids.
I love Cater.
So, yeah, I've known Cater for a long time. He's a really good family friend. But
I didn't know you guys were close with Ralph.
Yeah, he coached my older brother to 2 state titles at Cardinal Gibbons.
I remember that now. I think Ralph was the reason that Andrew even went to Cardinal Gibbons, or one of the reasons.
It is the reason. It is the reason, yeah. Because my brother was at Nova before that.
Exactly. He placed 4th for Ron Schultz at Nova.
Yeah, so he went from qualifier freshman, 4th, sophomore, state title.
Yep.
Yeah. So I got to be in that room and see him wrestle, and I'm still good friends with the Morris twins from Cardinal Gibbons and stuff like
Yep.
that. So
How
it's a good connection.
how big do you think it was for you to kind of grow up in that room watching those great wrestlers? Like, how much did that help you, do you think?
I mean, for me, originally I was very little. I do have memories of going to tournaments and watching them at practices and stuff like that. But I was so oblivious at the time as a kid, and I didn't know that wrestling was my calling. Like I said, I wanted to play basketball. But now, when I did start wrestling, having people like that as figures, like, okay, I want to be like that, or this is the standard I have to set myself to, that definitely helped me. It gave me an idea of like how hard you have to work.
Let me ask you this question. This might be an unfair question. I'm going to tell you, you cannot say your brother. So other than your brother, who was it that you looked up to the most? Like, who'd you want to be like? Like, when you watched the wrestling when you were a little guy, who'd you say, oh man, I hope I'm just like that? Who was that?
Who did I want to be like when I was, besides my older brother? Man,
Besides you,
really
you
no
can't
one.
say him.
Really, I mean, I could say my dad. Me and my little brother had a rivalry, but I'll keep it family away. Outside of family, I don't know. I know. There's this kid. His name is Tyler Cabral from Cardinal Gibbons. I don't know if you know who Tyler Cabral
I
is,
do remember
but
him.
the year before I started wrestling, I watched him at the regional tournament, and he was one of the most exciting wrestlers I've ever seen. He was gritty, he was aggressive, he was strong. Sadly, he got second at states 2 years in a row. Should have won his senior year, but lost to a really good kid from Somerset. But I believe his last name was Gillis too. I think it was Chase Gillis from
Yeah.
Somerset.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
the
Tyler
Bucks
Cabral
also.
was Tyler Cabral was someone that I saw wrestle and I was like, that kid's tough. I want to be like him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'd say
you
Tyler
always
Cabral.
have that one kid that you look up to as a little guy. And I still remember going back to when I was 8 years old, my idol was a guy named Mark Lieberman, who, if you look that name up, he was an All American, I think, multiple times and a national champion for Lehigh University. And the reason that I loved him is because he was a Jewish wrestler and I'm Jewish. So I was like, oh
Hmm.
my God, there's not a lot of really great Jewish wrestlers, not a lot of great Jewish athletes. If they ever came out with a book of greatest Jewish athletes, it would be like that big. But now, if you did a book about, successful businessmen, it'd be a very large book, but
Yeah, of course.
all a joke.
But back to the state duels. We got a little sidetracked.
Yeah, we did.
But
Anyway, Mark
he's gonna
Lieberman,
have
great wrestler. Anyway,
yeah,
state.
he's gonna have to edit some of that out. But to 3A, I told you from the beginning. I told you this is a battle for second place. I did have Wellington and South Dade making the state finals, but you're talking about people have always argued 3A is one of the best, if not the best, classification and the hardest classification to be in to win a state title in. So then you go to the state dual tournament. And you talk about the best of the best teams. The classification aside, some of the best teams, top 10, top 5, are in 3A, right? Then you talk about South Dade being the number one team. South Dade outscored all of their dual opponents in 3A 195 to 12. 195 to 12. In the
That's
first duel,
it's
in the
hard to
first duel they
comprehend.
won. In the first duel, I forgot who, Douglas. They won 66 to 3. And their second duel, I believe they faced George Jenkins. They won 65 to 6.
Well, real
And
quick,
then
let me stop you real quick. In the duel that they beat Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, their only win was Douglas's, right?
it was David
David Leva.
Leva. But did he pin the kid? I don't think he did actually. I was David Leva, and then probably a heavyweight guy. David Leva didn't pin.
They had 2 wins.
I believe so. Jaramillo. David didn't win Jaramillo. Oh wait, no. Yeah, David was the only win. It was 66-3. Yeah, David was the only win.
Yeah, he beat Guillermo Yaramillo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Douglas won 60, or South Dade won 66 to 3.
Yep.
Then they faced Georgia Jenkins and they won 65 to 6. Then they faced Wellington in the state dual finals. That means Wellington has to be the second best team in 3A, and they won 64 to 3. So that's just dominance.
Do you think Wellington really is the second best team in 3A? Do you think they would beat Southwest?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. And that's not a knock on Wellington at all.
Oh yeah, not a knock on Wellington. Like I said, I have great friends from Wellington, people I know personally. But we always talk about draw of the bracket, how the bracket's made, what can happen. they did get the top-sided bracket. It doesn't mean that they didn't face not good teams. You're at the state dual tournament. Your team's there for a reason.
Yeah.
But you talk about 3A Region 4. South Dade, Southwest Miami, Miami Southridge, Miami Palmetto.
Region of Doom. They call it that for a reason.
Yeah, Region of Doom, exactly. So
I think there's some ridiculous statistic out there that if you go to state from that region, I think there was like, I forget what the stat was, but it was a crazy stat. Like almost like 95% of the kids that came out of that region wound up placing at the state tournament.
That's crazy.
Crazy number. But it's unbelievable because look at that region.
It's tough. It's really tough. And if a lot of people, they go into that region and they think, okay, let's pick a random team. I won't say no names, but let's say you're another team, right? You're like, okay, my kid's got a kid from South Dade, kid's got Southwest, and they have Miami Southridge. Let's see how their bracket goes.
Right.
Then as a coach, you're honestly preying on that bracket to see what can change. Maybe two tough kids get each other on the same side.
Exactly.
Your kid can maybe wrestle back and get someone that's not as tough to make the state tournament.
Yep.
But, as a coach, we have to be honest with yourselves. You can't be oblivious to the fact that that's there. And the production that comes out of those rooms and, who's the best guy in the state. As a coach, you're checking the rankings, trying to see where your stud can go to place the highest or even win a state title at. So we can't be oblivious to that fact, and that's true. When you're in the Region of Doom, you're praying that you get a good pull of the bracket to where your kid can wrestle.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you 1,000%. I want to go back to the match with Wellington and South Dade. One of the matches that really surprised me, and I really like this kid a lot. I always talk very highly about him. He's one of your close friends. You've wrestled with him. You've been on teams with him. Mac Andrews.
Yeah,
Bear.
Mac. So, I watched that match.
Dude, it really surprised me because
it did.
Graham, he beat him good, very soundly.
Willie White.
I'm sorry, Willie White, right. Willie White.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm mistaken then because I think he has wrestled White, or maybe it was Graham, but I thought he wrestled White before and it was like a 1 or 2 point match, not long ago.
So I think you might be mistaking him with someone else or a different wrestler, but I know
it was either Graham
freestyle. Probably Graham, but I know in freestyle, Willie teched Mac.
Okay.
I know he's wrestled Mac before, but this is my first time seeing them wrestle live on Flow, and I haven't seen him wrestle in person either. This is my first time wrestling or seeing Willie wrestle, and he's dominant. Mac's the number 2, number 3 kid in the state, and I believe Mac, I love you, Mac. I love your father. I love everyone.
Absolutely.
But he hit the same, I believe, Russian tie to a snap straight down to the ground at like 2 or 3 or 4 times in the match. I know he probably saw it coming and was trying to stop it, but I know Mac's father texted me and he said next to Mako, he thinks Willie White is one of the best kids in the state pound for pound regardless of classification. And it's a big statement, but Willie White is a great wrestler. He's insane. He's probably the front runner for a state title unless Mac or Bonnie can upset him or knock him off. But after seeing that, there's no doubt in my mind that Willie White will win a state title this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely his to win for sure. His to lose as well. I was just going to tell you something, and it just slipped my mind. That always happens when you get old like me. Willie White was at Southwest last year.
And he got 3rd at States.
South Dade. He got what?
Mm-hmm. He got 3rd at States at Southwest.
3rd state with Miami Southwest. Mm-hmm. Transfers over to South Dade, and I wouldn't say it's like he's a completely different wrestler, but he's definitely a changed wrestler, I guess would be the best word to describe that. He's doing things that I don't normally see him do. I don't know if he learned that 2-on-1 at South Dade or where he learned it. He does it well. It's unstoppable. People know it's coming and he still hits it. What do you think about that? Do you think the whole move to South Dade was a huge help or not really?
Well,
what do you think?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you to an extent. I do believe, any room that Willie White's in, he'll make the room better. But then when you transfer to a room like South Dade, that room makes you better as a person and as a wrestler. And you talk about arguably the top 2 programs, not interchangeable. South Dade won with Southwest 2, and South Dade has always beaten Southwest. And there has to be something different in the room. I know watching him, I went to a Miami Hawks camp with him, ran by Pat Lugo.
Yeah.
I watched him wrestle. You were there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at the casino, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the casino.
Yep.
So I watched him wrestle, and my teammates wrestled him, and they were like, he's super fast, like he's super athletic. And I know watching him at the state tournament when I first started getting this idea, I wanted to get an idea of wrestlers, and he was a huge throw guy at Southwest. I believe he had a super high scoring, like 20 something to 17 match against a kid from South Penn Station, Nashad Bashir,
Oh,
that
yeah,
placed
yeah,
at
yeah.
States.
Yeah, tough kid.
Tough kid. I know he ended up winning that match by pin, but super huge throw guy. Now I watch Willie wrestle at South Dade, and he's like more defensive, which isn't a bad thing at all. He's more defensive, but he's an extremely smart wrestler with a high wrestling IQ, which can, I believe he wrestles great in every position, top, bottom, neutral, especially in neutral. I believe he's one of the toughest guys in the state to take down. Not only because kids have maybe gotten his legs or try to attack the upper body, but he has great defense overall everywhere. And it's crazy because word on the street is that wrestling is a second sport. Football is his first sport.
Oh, wow.
So
did not know that.
For you to be that athletic and that have that high of wrestling IQ as your second sport is insane to me. So I think that honestly, after watching that match, he is for sure one of the best pound for pound kids in the state. I mean, he teched Andre Stigrigoli, and Andre Stigrigoli is insane. He teched him in the knockout finals.
I watched that kid make the state finals as an 8th grader or 7th grader.
Yeah, he did. Crazy, but no. All praise to Willie White. I didn't see him as a wrestler that was that high level, but he's completely changed my mind.
Yeah, he's definitely the top dog at 165 in 3A. I got Matt at number 2, but I want to ask you about this kid that I've got number 3. You don't see a lot of him because he goes to a school that was not at the duels. You don't see them a lot of the big tournaments. But all this kid does is win, man. He's 28-0. Vladislav Chaskovsky.
Yeah.
Vlad?
Yeah.
What do you know about this guy, man? I love the kid, man. All he does is win.
So I don't know if it's him or a couple other kids, but I know Florida got a good amount of Ukrainian transfers this year. I know there's 2 at South Broward.
Yeah, I was going to say that. They got 2 brothers over there.
There's 2 brothers at South Broward who our team that I coached recently just wrestled. There's another one somewhere else. No stereotype. I don't know if that's just his name, but whether it is or not, I know of him and I know he's a great wrestler.
He's got a brother too.
Yeah, so they're both really good.
Yes.
They're both really strong. We're both really. And I believe the 2 brothers at South Broward as well, they've been training freestyle or Greco only for like 12 years.
Yep.
So they transferred to the Florida scene. Obviously, you're going to know a thing or two. Transferring from folk style, your hips are going to be great. You're going to have great defense. So I'm sure he's definitely someone to look out for. I don't know if they wrestled each other yet, but I'm interested to see how that would go if that did happen.
Yeah. Well, at 157...
He goes to Tocoi Creek, right?
Yeah, Tocoi Creek. And at 157, his brother Nikita Chachkovsky, I got him ranked number 9. He's 26-3. They must be twins because they're both sophomores. So, I mean...
Wow, he's a sophomore too.
Both sophomores. Yeah. It's nice.
Wow.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens with the one at 165 because I got him ranked number 3. Can you imagine if the state tournament shakes out to where Mac and Willie are on the same side and Chech gets on the other side? What a draw that would be for him, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think that would be crazy, but also, like I said, I don't want to count out. I don't know if it's Connor or Drake Bonnie. Which one is it?
Oh.
Is it Drake Bonnie?
Let me take a look. What weight are we talking now?
65.
65. So at 65, I have Drake Bonnie at number 4.
It's Drake Bonnie.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't want to count. Yeah, I don't want to count out Drake Bonnie. I've wrestled him. I believe he was one of my first varsity matches when I was a freshman, and I think he was in 7th grade. We were both 120. He's grown now. He's definitely not a 120 pounder anymore. But I watched him wrestle Mac at the Gillis, and he beat Mac.
This year?
This year.
Oh, yeah.
Recently. He beat Mac at Gillis.
Yep.
And Mac beat him the week before. So that's definitely a little rivalry that's going on. But he's a great wrestler, great wrestling IQ, great leg rider. He's
the
tough.
Match between Bonnie and Mac?
I watched it live. I watched it live.
Well, I heard it was... Maybe it was a different match, but I think it was this one. Was it a controversial match? Was there a call that maybe should have been made?
It wasn't controversial off a call, but it was controversial off stalling.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
because it was a long period of leg riding.
Yeah.
It got to a point where like Mac would stand up, he'd be on his back. You got to call it when that
Of
happens.
course. Yeah.
Go back to position. Um, the Wellington crowd definitely wasn't happy about it. But
Sure.
either way, you got to do what you got to do to win. And if you can't stop it, why not? If
Right.
it's not broken, why fix it?
Exactly. Well, I'm looking at the 165 3A state rankings, TFWR state rankings. The top 4 guys are tough as hell. White, Andrews, Chishkovsky, and Bonnie. But at number 5, you got a Southridge kid, Leonard Gilly. Now, I don't think he's any Willie White or Mac Andrews, but you can never count out a Southridge kid.
No, of course not. Especially the production they're having this year with their team.
Yep.
Definitely not.
So, what other matches that we discussed off camera that we didn't discuss on camera? We did talk about Nazario and Driggett, right?
We did.
That was,
We did.
I tell you what, to go back to that match real quick, I did not think Nazario, now I thought he would win. I didn't see him winning that big. 19-4, that's a win, man.
No, yeah, I like I said, I'm young. I wrestled with a lot of these guys before in practice shows and stuff. I wrestled Kalias when he was in 8th grade, and he was always good. I know he was a jiu-jitsu kid too, and freshman year state finalist, sophomore year state finalist. This is really early to say. I know the weight class is all over the place, but I think that Kalias Nazario will win a state title this year.
Okay.
If it's not Kalias, DeGregoli, but I think Kalias Nazario will win a state title this year. That's my opinion. And I'm going to stand strong on that.
Yeah, he's definitely a top guy at that weight for now. So, the state duels finished. 1A was Matter Lakes champs. 2A was Tampa Jesuit champs. 3A South Dade champs. Now, we go in the March to the Silver Spurs for the IBT State Championships. Do we have the same results? Do we have different results?
I will say South Dade will win the state IBT, in my opinion. I know last year they had a record 11 state finalists, I believe. So that's unheard of.
Oh my God.
And a lot of those kids are returning too. I have South Dade winning the 3A state IBT. 2A state IBT, still all over the place depending how matches go. I can't count out Jesuit.
That's the toughest one to pick, the 2A one.
I think so. I don't want to count out Jesuit anymore because they did prove me wrong. But I'd be silly to not think that those top 3 are all interchangeable.
Yep.
Jesuit, Somerset, Lake Gibson. Anything can happen. There's a couple upsets in those dual tournaments, but it also depends on the bracket and who they pull. I know a lot of those guys are back-to-back 1 and 2 seeds or 1 and 2 ranked kids. So most likely they'll meet in the state finals, but if they don't meet in the state finals, what will happen?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's gonna be.
If I had to say a gun to my head, like you say, and I have to pick one, I will say Jesuit will have their cards fixed and they will win a state IBT. If I had to pick the top 3, I'm gonna go Jesuit, Somerset, Gibson. It's not my 10 toes down confirmed. That's just if I have to pick. And for 1A, I'm still gonna go with my boys from South Florida, Matter Lakes. I think they can double gold this year. I think they can do it. I'd be very happy for them too.
I think Merritt Island's going to be right there with them.
I agree. I know Little Karoga texted me on my business page. He said, don't count Merritt Island out. Don't count Merritt Island out. And he was right. Merritt Island beat Zephyr Hills Christian.
Yeah.
But just because Zephyr Hills Christian wasn't at the state dual tournament doesn't mean that they won't be there either. I think it will be Matter Lakes and then Zephyr Hills Christian. But Merritt Island as a number 3 now because they also dominated Hernando, and I thought Hernando was going to put up more of a fight too.
Now, jog my memory. Who knocked off Zephyr Hills? Why were they not at the state duels?
Merritt Island. 31-31 criteria. Then they won 32-31 off of criteria.
Right. So that can go either way. So really, for the IBTs, a lot of it comes down to just the luck of the draw, where your kid's going to be in the bracket, who's going to be on the same side. A lot of that plays big time into the end result.
I agree 100%.
Every year. And then, kids don't make weight the second day. God only knows what could happen. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. We've always talked about it since the beginning of the year, luck of the draw, luck of the bracket, what's going to happen. And that's a big factor, especially with not just boys' weight classes, But with girls' weight classes, girls doesn't have girls 1A, girls 2A, girls 3A.
Right.
You have top nationally ranked girls in the same weight class that are some not even more likely than not, some that will be on the same side of the bracket
Oh yeah.
because of how many there are.
Has to be.
So there's no choice. You have to wrestle them whether you like it or not.
Exactly. So, well, that was a really great state duels. I was very happy with the way everything turned out and the way that everything went. There was no major injuries to anybody, I don't think. Was there?
No.
Yeah, I think everybody came out pretty much unscathed, which is always a good thing. But, with that level of competition, you just never know what could happen. So I was very happy that everybody made it out injury-free for the most part, but it was a great state tournament. I'm really looking forward to the IBTs and seeing what happens the rest of the way. But as usual, it was a pleasure recording this with you. Looking forward to more, absolutely. And again, I cannot thank you enough for stepping in and making sure the people got their updated rankings this week.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks. And by the way, guys, the rankings in the TFWR state rankings, many of those records need to be updated. We can only put in what we can figure out through track and the different sources. But if you guys know you're ranked, drop me a message. Drop Alex a message. Let him know what your record is so we can plug it in there. We want to get everything right. So just keep that in mind. Let us know what your current record is so we can get it changed. But other than that, anything else you got to say?
Good luck to everyone the rest of the season. Now, coming from a wrestler myself, and I'm young like you guys, this is where it matters. Make sure if you haven't been consistent now, it's the time. Get your diet right. Start working out 2 or 3 times a day, because this is where all of your hard work matters. So good luck to all of you in the postseason.
Absolutely. One thing before we sign off, actually 2 things I wanted to ask you. First, if people want to start following you at Florida Wrestling Insight, how do they do it?
Follow me, FL_Wrestling Insight on Instagram. My goal is to have 2,000 supporters, all of you, before the end of the state tournament. Because I always say we, because it's a page where all of us have a voice. I always ask you guys questions. What's your opinion on things? What do you think will change? And I always have my DMs open. I will not leave you on red. I will answer you guys always when I have the time to. So yes, FL_Wrestling Insight. There will be a Facebook sooner than later. I don't know whether it will be this season or over the summer break for off season. And then we are planning to have a website by next year, hopefully this summer. But please, like I said, contact me, ask me whatever. I will answer anyone. My DMs are always open.
Guys, do yourself a favor. Make sure you subscribe. Follow him on Instagram, Florida_Wrestling Insight. His name's Alex Wisdom. The guy drops serious knowledge. Let's get him all the followers. Let's get him going. He's providing a wonderful service. So let's take care of those who take care of us. Anyways, great talking to you as usual, Alex. We'll talk later this week, and we'll get on here next week. We'll cover something, but we'll give everybody another video from us. And if you guys like it, man, drop comments, follows, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. Let us know that you love us or hate us. We don't care. We want it good, bad, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let us know if you like what we're doing. Tell us how we can improve, and we take all of that to heart. So we want to give you what you want, and we want to give you the most accurate, updated information. So we've collaborated together to do that for you. So let us know what you think. Other than that, I'm out of here. I'm going to get back into bed, take a shower, get in bed, go to sleep. Have a great day. You got school tomorrow?
I do.
All right. Good luck in your class. Make sure you get all A's. So you don't want your muscle-bound dad beating you up, man. You know your dad reminds me of? Not his face, but his body, like Pat Lugo's dad.
Really? Pat Lugo's dad is like that too?
Oh my God, he's jacked. I remember I think it was either the Big Tens. Yeah, it was at the Big Tens. I was watching it on TV, and they kept going into the crowd and showing Pat Lugo Sr. And I forgot who was announcing it, but they said, look at Pat Lugo's dad, man. That guy is jacked. Like, they even commented on it. And your dad reminds me so much of him. Which is good.
Yeah, no,
your dad is fresh, man.
Yeah, thank you.
How long has he been into working out and nutrition and stuff? He's been at it his whole life, right?
His whole life. He's still doing it now.
Yeah.
Still doing it. I think when he's done doing it, he'll be far gone. There's no way he doesn't stop.
Hey, man, God bless him, man. God bless him.
Yeah, of course.
Brother, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.